Traveling Machinist here. Okay, today I want to talk a little bit about moving forward in April. As I get closer to my departure date over to the Philippines, which I have quite a few followers and friends over there now. One of my main goals or objectives to go over to the Philippines is to meet up with some machine shops, tour their facilities, maybe film them if they allow me to, and get some connections over there. So as my friends on Facebook and YouTube, if you know any machinists or machine shop owners, I got something planned when I get over there in May. I'll keep you informed once I have more details of that. But what I want to do a little bit today is to explain what a machinist is. I did that little segment with the high school students at the Donnie Smith show. And, we don't have enough tradesmen here in the States. And people tend to think that it's not a high glamorous job. Well, it really isn't, because the market doesn't make it that way. But we need tradesmen to make the things that we need every day. We need machinists, we need welders, framers, electricians, plumbers, all of these trades, stonemasons, these are tradesmen that, we need a lot of them to build and rebuild the things that, obviously break, like the drive shaft, which we're going to talk about. So, with that being said, I don't want to bore you too much on all that, but here's the problem I'm having. Okay, I got a new drive shaft coming, ordered it off eBay. I was able to get this piece here, which is still in the car on this side, but I got this end and this whole piece for like $200 coming from eBay. Probably wasn't made in the States. So anyways, what we got here is this here slides in and out. And that's for when the car has a suspension. It can move around. It doesn't lock up on a solid short. But my point being is we broke a bolt. If you can see that, it should look like this. Now, I could go to Mercedes dealership, tell them what bolts I need, and maybe they have them. I highly doubt they have them on the shelf. I don't have time for that, so I'm going to have to figure out what these bolts are so I can go to my local supplier and see if I can come up with some bolts to replace this one. Now, these particular ones have a star in them, which is called Torx, and that's irrelevant. I'm not going to get too in depth there. I don't want to bore you, because it's not about being bored. Machining is a broad spectrum. But in this case, what I'm going to do is use some math, and I'm going to just quickly try to figure out exactly what type of bolt I have. I brought in a bolt that's an American bolt. This is an Allen screw or socket head cap screw. And it's got an Allen head in it. Now this is an alloy, so forth and so on. They look almost the same size. And if I use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you down to the table. Let's go right there. I got myself my trusty little dial caliper. This is all in inches. More than likely, the Mercedes-Benz uses metric bolts. I'm almost 99.999% positive. But what I want to show you is how I'm going to use this to figure out what size this bolt is. Now, the easy way would be to go down to your local place. They'll have a nut. You screw it on there, and then you just pick the right bolt for that. But for me, I like to, as I said, I'm going to try to explain what machinists do. Like in this case here, this thread on here. Not sure if you can quite see that, if it's going to focus. Right there, that looks better. Okay, there's a thread on there. Well, a machinist would cut those threads. Somebody has to make this bolt. And I'm trying to be as simple as I can right now. So as a machinist, my job would be to figure out how to make these threads on this bolt, or even how to stamp that Torx head in the head. Whereas like a mechanic, when I'm underneath the car replacing this drive shaft, that's what a mechanic really does. They have the knowledge and skill set to, know what's wrong, be able to tear it apart, put it back together safely. But as a machinist, I would make this bolt or make this drive shaft. So with that being said, I know this is 5/16 18, which is the diameter and the pitch per thread. So the diameter, if I measure it, will come out, and I know that's upside down. Again, that's not the issue. But I'm measuring the diameter, and it's 312 thousandths. Well, I measure this one at 310 thousandths. But this is definitely not 5/16. So what I did was I measured this, and I did the math to calculate it out that it's an 8 millimeter. I'm not going to bore you with all the math. So it's an 8 millimeter. And then what I do is I'll take my calipers and I'll measure, again, I don't know if you can see this, but on a thread there's a tip on each one of those, and I'll measure the distance between those. Now again, this is rudimentary, and if I measure this across here, I get about 55 thousandths. And this one, I'm getting about 49 thousandths. Now, yes, I'm not really going into how to measure details, but the idea that I can mathematically calculate that and figure out that this is an 8 millimeter by 1.25 millimeter pitch, which means in an inch on this one's 18 threads per inch. This is 1.25 threads per millimeter or per centimeter. I forget. I'm an inch guy, but I know how to calculate the difference. So this is an 8 millimeter bolt. So when I go to the store, I should be able to find an 8 millimeter bolt. So back to like what the machinist does is, if you see this drive shaft, let's just slip the spline out here. You see these splines that are cut on here? They're either cut or rolled, I should say. Maybe down here would be better. They're either cut or rolled. I would be the person that would be setting up the machine and the cutters to make this spline and then cut the splines on this shaft. Or on this side, the splines are inside the hole here. I would set the machine up and pull a broach through that to cut those splines. And again, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but that's basically a generic idea of what a machinist is doing. We're making these parts versus just assembling and putting them in the vehicle. All right, for that matter, traveling machinist out. I'm gonna go find some bolts. My drive shaft's supposed to be coming in on Wednesday. So if it comes in on Wednesday, Thursday I'll be putting it in, or maybe Wednesday afternoon. And hopefully I'll have some bolts by then. I'm gonna push you back up here. I'll have some bolts by then, and we should be able to put this together, and let's hope that that machine gets back on the road. Traveling machinist out. Enjoy and be kind.